you're too blind to see. Never gonna give you up, never gonna let you down, never gonna run around and desert you, never gonna make you cry, never gonna say goodbye, never gonna tell a lie and hurt you, never gonna give you up, never gonna let you down, never gonna run around and desert you, never gonna make you cry, never gonna say goodbye, never gonna tell a lie and hurt you. We are the ones who don't know what we're fighting for. Give us a gun and send us all off to war. We are the ones who grow up in violent homes. We are the ones who don't know what's right or wrong. I know. We are the ones who were born into war. We are the ones who just don't give a fuck no more. No more. We are the ones who don't know why we're losing score. Give them a badge so they could send us to the morgue. We are the ones who are scared to walk out the door. We are the ones who don't know what we're dying for. I know. We are the ones who were born into war. We are the ones who just don't give a fuck now. We are the ones who were born into war. We are the ones who just don't give a fuck no more. No. Get off this fucking neck. Don't let me shoot you. He can't fucking breathe. Don't let me shoot you. We are the ones who were born into war. We are the ones who just don't give a fuck now. We are the ones who were born into war. We are the ones who just don't give a fuck no more.
This podcast features adult subject matter, adult language, and things not meant for children to hear. Viewer discretion is advised. You've been warned. If it's Friday, you're probably just as confused as everyone else. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of appropriate ages, to the rare Friday edition of the I Am No Joe podcast. I, of course, am your hostess with the mostest, the meter. The meter does many things if you're nasty. Of course, as always, I have got the glorious panel here with me, Golf Tea Vapes and Slow Bake 420 here to help break down all the shit talking, the shenanigans, the fight announcements, and fuckery that has trickled out of the MMA pipeline since we saw you wonderful folks last. Before we get into all the fun and fuckery, though, first off, gentlemen, how the hell you doing over there?
Feels like Groundhog Day.
Absolutely. But only the first couple, not the end where he can play piano and do all the fun shit.
Exactly.
Glad we still got to do a show. It's been a rough week, man. We got rough fights going on, but it's always fun to get to fuck around.
Absolutely glad everybody can make it through here. So to jump into things as we like to around here, we start off with a little bit of news and recent events, fight announcements, fight cancellations, and other relevant news in the fight world that we feel you folks need to be aware of here. This week, we start, like most weeks, unfortunately, we are talking about things that are trickling over from last weekend. First and foremost, props to Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano. Those are two of the baddest females on the fucking planet, hands down. I don't care what weight class, what fucking sport. Those are two of the baddest fucking women in combat sports, period. And if you don't agree, you didn't watch the fight, which in actuality was probably most of the world, because that brings me to the point here. Netflix said that 65 million individual households tuned into that event on Friday evening, and every fucking one of them saw endless glitching, freezing, buffering, errors, reloading, and nonsense. If Netflix has any genuine aspirations of trying to hold future live sporting events on their system, they are going to have to do some serious fucking upgrades on their back end, because it was a fucking nightmare. We had multiple different accounts in my household using multiple different devices to try and keep it going. We could not, even the fucking Khabib's cousin wink wink streams were having problems keeping their fucking feeds going. At one point, we were actually laughing because one of those wink wink streams was so not worried about what was going on that they actually let their username get fucking shown in the millions of refreshes that they were trying to do to get the fucking fights to come back together. So there was some good on that night as a whole, but overall, we all got WWE fucking wolf ticket scammed. So the bad part is that excuse me, after the fact, Mike Tyson comes out and says that he himself doesn't understand how the fight actually got sanctioned for a second time, because it wasn't just the small health scare he told us all it was in June, that he actually almost died in June, that he had lost several pints of blood, was down 50 pounds, and needed IV treatment to get back up on his feet. So things were not as they appeared to be at any point of that fucking circus. And I'm glad that I told people not to fucking pay for it, because if you didn't have a Netflix account, you shouldn't have been watching it. If you had a Netflix account, you shouldn't have been watching it. Speaking of things that you shouldn't have been watching, that brings us to UFC 309 that went down this weekend, or at least what we got of it, because as the broadcast started, we got told a couple of things here. The first one was that Chris Weidman versus Eric Anders was officially off UFC 309, that Eric Anders, after the face-offs, had gotten food poisoning. Luckily for them, they have decided to officially move that fight now to UFC 310, December 9th, coming up here in a couple of weeks, the final pay-per-view of the year. And they're going to do it at a catch weight of 195 pounds, so that neither one of those gentlemen have to cut weight again. Anders on account of the food poisoning, and Weidman because he already did. So they're going to throw them both a bone. But one of the other big things that was announced during the broadcast of 309 last weekend was kind of a pair here. Dana himself dropped a video to let everybody know that UFC 310's co-main event has officially been saved. Shavkat Rakhmonov is staying on the card, and he will be taking on Ian Machado Gary in a 5-round co-main event, non-title fight. Very important. But the other half of his announcement was that the main event for 310 will be Alexandre Pantoja versus Kai Asakura, and that the final card of the year, the UFC Tampa card for December, I think it's 17th, something like that. The final UFC card of the year has a new main event now, and it will be Colby Covington versus Joaquin Buckley as its main event. So interesting way to round out 2024 for the UFC, to say the very least. That brings us over to the events of 309. To start off, the A10 does what an A10 fucking does. Jim fucking Miller, in, I have it written down here, where is it? 2 minutes and 44 seconds of the first round, decided, don't be silly, jump the gilly, yokes up Damon Jackson, brings him to the fucking ground, and that is all she fucking wrote. Jim fucking Miller. Damon Jackson subsequently retires and opts not to even speak on the microphone about it. Jim Miller literally choked that man out of combat sports. So, tip of the cap to Damon Jackson. Obviously, we always like to see fighters retire on their own accord when they're still able to form complete sentences and sign their name legibly versus the alternative. So, although it might not have been the prettiest ways, tip of the cap to Damon Jackson for sure. Entertaining fighter for goddamn sure. Has a hell of a resume. If you don't know who he is, go look through his fucking library. That dude's been in some damn bangers. The other side that we have to take a minute to talk about here was in the third round, John Jones spinning heel kick Stipe in the ribs, drops him and subsequently finishes him, retaining the heavyweight belt. And then Stipe Miocic retires in the ring, but does take a moment to talk on microphone and says, you know, it's been a hell of a ride. Thank you to everyone who's been a part of it, but I'm retiring. Thank God my time is done. I'm just going to go be a fireman and a husband and a dad now. So without a question, tip of the cap to Stipe Miocic, one of the greatest heavyweights to ever fucking do it, period. Absolutely glad to see him decide to call it quits while he is still able to form complete sentences and sign his name. The saga of John Jones continues, and we're not even going to give that bullshit anytime. Just know the John Jones saga continues. Unfortunately, when there's concrete news to talk about, we will re-up it. But until then, whatever. That being said, we did actually get some relevant fight announcements going forward here. The first kind of interesting one, I won't say it's the most relevant, but it is one of the most interesting ones we got this week. We'll be going down January 18th in Manchester, England for Misfits Boxing number 20. Darren Till taking on Tommy Fury in a pro boxing match. The most accredited fighter Darren Till has ever stepped in against, and Tommy Fury angling to set up another rematch with this victory, but we're not going to talk about that. So we'll just see how that plays out for Darren Till when January gets here and they get over to Manchester. That being said, here in the US in January, on January 18th, as a matter of fact, over in Los Angeles, we got a couple of interesting fights added to the UFC 311 card going down January 18th. Grant Dawson versus Diego Ferreira. Very, very interesting fucking fight. Both dudes on a fucking hell of a run right now. And the other one that's less exciting, but they're doing it. They're rebooking the Fallen Out co-main event, Ricky Tercios versus Bernardo Sopai. Not sure why, but they're doing it. They're putting it on 311 to start off the pay-per-view of 2025. So we'll see how that plays out. Excuse me. January 25th for the first ever BKFC event from Philadelphia, Knucklemania 5. One Eddie Alvarez and who the fuck is that guy himself, Jeremy Stevens, are officially going to knuckle up and toe the line with no gloves, just wrist guards on. So going to be interesting to see how that plays out. Neither one of them have had the most illustrious career since they've left the UFC. So it's going to be interesting to see if they can both bring something out here for the Philly show. We'll see. On the same day, ironically enough, January 25th, from the other side of the world over in Dubai, the Bellator Champions Series is still, yes, a thing. And they are, in fact, doing the damn thing. Usman Nurmagomedov will be facing Paul Hughes. So clearly the AJ McKee fight did exactly what they hoped it would do for Paul Hughes. And he is now in the spotlight they hoped he was going to be. It looks like they may have a new face for what is left of Bellator until they officially dissolve into PFL sometime at the end of next year, I believe. Going to be interesting to see how it shakes loose. Speaking of seeing how it shakes loose being potentially interesting, February 1st, Saudi Arabia will have a UFC quote-unquote power fight night. We're not getting into that. But it does have an interesting fight added to it here. Yasmin Yazdavicius stepping back in there to take on Mayra Buena Silva, who is coming back down to 125 pounds, giving up her bantamweight aspirations. if I remember correctly, Mayra Buena Silva has fought at 125 before, but it was a hell of a rough weight cut. So it'll be interesting to see if she's gotten that under control a little better, especially against the likes of somebody with Jasmine Jasdovicius, who is on a hell of a fucking tear and just can't stop winning lately, especially after her fucking Canadian victory at home. It would definitely be a nice little feather in her cap to take Mayra Buena Silva's ass coming back into the division as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how that one shakes loose. The end of February 22nd at location TBD, I say with air quotes for those just listening, because the UFC hasn't officially announced where this card is even going to take place or what the main event is going to be yet, but they're starting to stack it now. We got an interesting fight. Anthony Fluffy Hernandez versus Brendan Allen 2. This is actually a rematch because these two originally fought for the belt in LFA, which Hernandez ended up winning and getting called to the UFC for. So it's going to be interesting to see that one run back now that both of them have a significantly more seasoned career and are undeniably more well-rounded than they were as youngsters coming up through LFA. Kind of a confirmed, unconfirmed. We got it straight from the horse's mouth, confirmed from both sides of this here. We don't have an exact date just yet because apparently they're still shopping venues, but Rashad Evans is officially coming out of retirement to box Rampage Jackson in early 2025. They are hoping to try and get it on the West Coast, but they said that there are still several venues that they are in negotiations with, so they can't announce the date or location just yet. Just that both sides have agreed to it, with tentative dates being floated right now between the venues that they're trying to secure. So not the worst matchup in the world. This is one of those situations that most fight fans aren't against. If an old guy wants to come out of retirement and fight another old guy who's essentially retired for all, for all real purposes, Rampage is retired. Fight Circus is not necessarily active competition as far as I'm concerned. So Rampage essentially being retired. Rashad has been on the commentator's desk more than he's been in the octagon for the last couple of years. I don't see a problem with those two strapping on a pair of boxing gloves in a sanctioned and actually regulated fucking match. Those are the kind of fights we generally don't get angry at. So I hope they do find a decent location. I hope they don't sell it for too fucking much money, and I hope we can get a good event out of it. It could be genuinely fun and appropriately matched. We'll see. That being said, excuse me. I don't like talking about this next story any more than anybody likes hearing about it, but it needs to be talked about. And I'm not going to go into details because they're still scarce and somewhat unconfirmed at this point. But what we do know as of right now is that there is a video going around the internet. You can find yourself, I'm not going to show it, of Nick Diaz sitting outside, not looking good. And shortly after that video surfaced, the UFC announced that Nick Diaz is officially out of his fight with Vicente Luque for UFC 310, and that they have sent a contract to and expect acceptance from Themba Garimbo to step in on short notice and replace Nick against Vicente Luque. Anything more than that at this point is just speculating, and we don't do that kind of fucking thing around here, especially in a situation as serious as this. I hope that everything turns out to be okay, but all we know as of right now is that things don't look good and that Nick is officially out of his fight with Vicente Luque. That being said, Dominic Cruz made an official statement yesterday and has said that he's got just enough spark left. He wants one more war. He doesn't want an up and comer. He doesn't want a title shot. He wants someone of his age and experience level to put one last give it hell match and see exactly what he's got left before he officially retires. And it seems like the UFC is going to honor that request. Someone asked Dana about it, and he said, we're going to see who we can find and see if we can make that happen. So if they play this card correctly, this could be a good example of the UFC sending someone off, which they've done several times this year, the proper way. They've fucked that up a couple of times this year as well, but they've done a couple of them the right way. So hopefully we get to see Dominic fucking Cruz sent out the right way as well, win or lose, in an appropriate matchup that he agrees to. So we'll see how that plays out. Last one I've got here for this week, not necessarily as happy, but relevant here. Back in July, we saw Don Madge take on Neiman Gracie and have a very, very poor showing of himself, and then subsequently retire after the match. And it turns out he was really giving it everything he fucking had in that match, because his in competition sample from after that fight was over popped hot for, I believe, 5 different substances, including exogenous testosterone. He has subsequently been suspended for 2 years by USADA, even though he literally was in his retirement fight when it happened. But, you know, USADA gonna USADA no matter who they are representing in this particular fucking situation. That being said, though, that is all the news I have got for this week. Either one of you gentlemen have everything I might have missed?
Nope. I don't have anything I feel like harping on right now.
Nothing on mine.
Good deal. So, that being said, that will bring us to the point now where, if you've been watching combat sports as long as some of us have been watching combat sports, you tend to know what you like to watch and when it comes on and how to watch it. And you sort of develop a set of metaphorical blinders, if you will. You start to lose the punchy kicky forest for the trees. Luckily for us here on the show, we've got ourselves a bona fide young person who stays out there vigilantly and ever so delicately fingering the pulse of the MMA world to help keep us abreast of all the names that are going to be big names before they are big names, in a little segment that we call Slows, Cans, and Contenders.
Appreciate you, brother. I feel like you just throw the whole fucking thing trash. Obviously, this weekend, we said that before. This is a guaranteed hangover. Pay-per-view last weekend was kind of rough, but this is really fucking rough. The obvious shit I'd throw in the trash can this week: Carlos Hernandez, the Kanan Song and Muslim Salikov fight, fucking Nicholas Mota and the Mashahate fight. I feel like all those just throw in the trash, but we don't know how half of it's going to go. It's a lot of young kids coming on the road to the UFC finals and trying to make their debuts and shit of that sort. We'll see how that all that goes, but it's just that obligation card, like Meter talks about too. Person I got on the fence, the contender, is Volkan Ozdemir. If he beats Carlos Ulberg, especially if he could go out and knock him out or some shit like that, it at least keeps him interesting, keeps him in a good spot in his career. He loses, he's kind of at the end of it, right? So, contenders to look forward to this weekend. I think the 2 young girls, Tabitha Ricci and then Kong Wong. You look forward to those ladies. Kong Wong fucking getting that knockout in a minute in her debut in the UFC. That was pretty fucking interesting. Looking forward to seeing what she does in the next one. You got Mi Yang Zhang and Carlos Ulberg, the light heavyweights there. Probably going to fucking get knockouts themselves. Looking forward to seeing what they do. Lonier Kavanaugh. Excited for that young kid coming out of Cage Warriors. Fucking hell of a knockout on the Contender Series this summer. So already getting in there, making his debut before the end of the year. Excited to see what that kid does. Yeah, the main event you could throw in there. Vincent was talking to me earlier. He feels like the main event's trash. He feels like Figueiredo, since he's gotten him bantamweight, he hasn't done a ton. He hasn't gotten finishes, right? And Peter Yan, he's been in a lot of decisions in his last handful of fights. So he feels like the fight's just going to potentially be a snooze fest, grappling fest with Jan, and he's not that excited about even the main event. So he thinks the whole card's trash himself. So I figured I'd throw that out there. Like to hear what you boys got though.
I'm gonna say it is hard to find something good about this card. This isn't what you would call a hangover card, in my opinion. This is called alcohol poisoning. This is where you end up in the hospital. It's not actually just a fucking hangover. This is fucking terrible. Look, I get that you're doing this road to the UFC thing, and I'm really glad that it's happening really fucking early in the morning in the US. So I have a legitimate reason to say, fuck you, I'm not watching this. I'm gonna get my sleep because my sleep is way more important than there's only a maybe 4 fights on this card that I might, and I say might, go back and watch the replay. I will maybe watch the main event back. Maybe watch Yan Zhao and see if she can come back after fucking getting toppled in her last chance at a title. And maybe I'll watch Kong Wang there in her second fight in the UFC. And this is a very far-fetched maybe, Volkan Ozdemir and Carlos Ulberg. Those are the literally only 4 fights on the fucking card that are worth my time. The rest of it is just, it's a goddamn shopping center where all of the cans have fallen on the floor, been trampled by the fucking carts, trolleys. If you're in the UK and listening to this, it doesn't fucking matter. They're all dented, and we don't know if any of it's still good. Looks like a lot of them are fucking expired at this point too. So, like I said, it's hard to say anything good about this card. It's literally the alcohol poisoning of hangover cards.
So, unlike John Jones and the return to the UFC old gloves at 309, I am going to take responsibility for this card being partially my fault. I've been saying for years that I'm tired of having to wake up and work you fucking lizard people's hours to see fights when they start them at 10 o'clock in the fucking morning. I wish it'd be a little more on my goddamn vampire time. And lo and fucking behold, I got exactly what I fucking wished for. This card for the UFC starts at 2 a.m. Central Time in just 4 hours from right now. This is prime meter watch punchy kicky do dab time, and I could give a fuck less about 97% of what they're giving me. I mentioned it last week when they announced all of the bullshit fights that they're putting on the card that's going to come after my birthday, which I already knew was coming, but I figured at least the first card that they give me during my vampire hours would be okay. And it's not. It's really essentially, this is a version 2.0 of the road to the UFC Asia with 3 or 4 contractual obligations sprinkled on top of it. TJ's right. This really isn't even a hangover card. This 100% is a contractual obligation card. That being said, even the runniest of turds still has a corn nugget sticking out of it somewhere. And there are a few in this particular plop that we can still get excited about. Song Wang, I believe, is how she's officially announced that it is said, is guaranteed fireworks at this point. Whether she goes out and gets starched by the nobody they're putting up against her, or she goes out and gets another minute change fucking knockout finish and yells at the UFC for not putting her in a big enough position again. Either way, that fight is spectacular. That young lady has shown to us that she, as we like to refer to around here, is allergic to boring fights. She breaks out in punches. I'm fucking here for it. So I will watch anytime they put her name on a UFC card, and she proves me stupid for doing so. I'm definitely excited about that one. Ozdemir Ulberg, there is some genuine interest there, because if Ulberg can do something other than a boring 15-minute wrestle fuck, he genuinely might get a push from the UFC. The problem is we haven't really seen him do much of anything impressive in any area that he's been in any of his last couple of fights, even if he is getting boring W fucking decisions. Ozdemir, on the other hand, is primed and poised to make a potential final run because he's getting up there in age, but he's also still kicking ass and taking names. So if No Time comes out and ain't got no time for Ulberg, that fight could get real interesting. But I don't know if it's interesting enough for me to give it full contender status here. I will say Mahashate versus Nicholas Mota has the dark side of my fucking wicked heart interested, because that is like mom says we've got a Schrodinger's contender at home written all over it. It's not the level that we generally consider that, but it's got the same stakes wise, because Mahashate has essentially shit the bed since he got to the UFC, but so has Nicholas Mota. They've both had very, very weak glimpses of potential, but essentially just filled their diaper on a UFC budget over their time in the run here. They're using that fight as the curtain jerker to open a 2 a.m. fight card. Either they see something in it that we don't, or this is going to set a very, very poor bar going into this UFC Macau card coming forward. That being said, I do understand what Vinny means about the main event here. I'm not going to pretend that this is a meritocratic fight here. This one's got me excited because I'm a dark, twisted fuck and I'm a petty bitch. And I don't think Jan has been able to do shit since he caught fucking Aljo's knee to his dome. Like, that Aldo moment changed Piotr Jan's entire fucking career, and he hasn't been able to prove us wrong since then. I love Figgy Smalls, but he hasn't been spectacular since he moved up to bantamweight. He's been cashing checks and getting dubs, but he hasn't been as exciting as he was, and we saw in those wars against Moreno. So I can definitely see how there's a little bit of meh leading into it. But I also have seen, I've been around the fight game long enough to have seen what Figgy Smalls can do when you give him half a chance. The winner coming out of this main event, if they look good, not with a 25-minute boring wrestle fucking decision, the winner coming out of this main event looking good, arguably could make a claim at the next shot for the 135-pound belt. It's not an easy road and it's not a guarantee, but if they do something spectacular, if Figgy Smalls comes out and styles on Jan in round one, puts his fucking sunglasses on and just Billy struts out of the fucking cage, he's hard to keep out of the conversation. On the other side of that coin, we've seen how hard Figueiredo is to finish. And if Piotr Jan can somehow align the fucking stars in his favor and line one out and put Figgy Smalls to bed, it's real hard to argue who else above him deserves it more than he would at that point too. So I'm not excited about it. I'm not saying that's what I think could happen. I'm just saying in the fight game, MMA math rarely ever adds up. So I'm morbidly curious about how the main event comes out. I don't think we got here because both guys deserve to be here. And I don't think the winner is guaranteed anything. But I think with a good performance, we could see some fun coming out of the tail end of this card. The early end, the prelims are essentially just like we talked about, the road to the UFC finals or rematches or, intro matches. But to be fair, this is what we talk about the UFC does when they take cards on the road. They flood the card with locals from wherever they are going. And it just so happens that the road to UFC Asia, most of those fighters were from China, and this card is in China. So, Dana's not the brightest bulb in the box, but he's also not the dimmest either. So this just made sense for everyone involved. There's still some fun to be had, though. I'm still here for it. Maybe not all of it, but I'm here for it.
I appreciate you boys. Tried to make it a little less shitty looking, the best that we could there, but I know I'm gonna be like Goffy. I'm gonna be fucking sleeping. I might watch some shit back. Ain't worth staying the fuck up that for me. I'm already sleepy.
A fucking man.
I get it. Thank you very much. Much appreciated. So, at this point, in most podcasts, you get some bullshit B-roll fucking ad for some company that doesn't have anything to do with the podcast or something that no one on the podcast actually fucking uses. And we don't play like that around here. The ImNoJoe podcast is sponsored by viewers like you. Patreon.com/ImNoJoe for as little as $1 a month up to whatever the fuck you want to give. You help us do what we do around here, and we appreciate that. And to show that appreciation, for starters, we put your name at the end of every broadcast on this channel to let everyone know how fucking awesome you are and helping us do what we do. But even more than that, we get you unaired and unairable content access for all the behind the scenes bullshit that goes down here on the I'm No Joe channel. Things that may or may not have gotten us kicked off OnlyFans, I can't officially say, but it's there. And once you prove that you're helping us out, we give you access to all the fuckery. So it makes it worth everybody's time, and it's just a little bit of fun. That being said, this point in the podcast brings us to the only segment that does require its own individual disclaimer. So if you would, just a moment, please. Tapology.com does not in any way, shape, or form support, sponsor, or endorse the I'm No Joe podcast yet. That being said, Tapology does offer the option to go onto their website, create a free account, and make fantasy-style MMA picks like we do here on the show. They even let you make groups. So we made one. It's called ImNoBookie, all one word, or Group 965, however you need to find it. The group is open to the public. You are welcomed and encouraged. Make yourself an account, join the group, and let us know who the hell you are so we can hold your picks accountable, just like we do with ours, in a segment we call Tapology with TJ.
All right, I want to jump right into last week's right away because it was a fucking tight race. Let me tell you what, from top to bottom, our group did fucking fantastic. Between first, second, third, fourth, there was only 55-point difference from first to fourth. All of us in the top four managed 9 or better correct. Well, 9 correct. So it was just a matter of who was getting the right decisions, who got the perfects and the semi-perfects. The top spot went to the young Boone himself, Don and Donna's son. Just fucking amazing. Welcome to the group. Way to fucking take that top spot on a fucking pay-per-view card. And not far behind him, sitting in second at 540. He was only 15 points off, was the meter himself. Pulled himself back up after a couple of weeks fuckery and got his shit back together. So that was nice to see. And I squeaked out a third place over Donna by 5 fucking points because I got 2 semi-perfects where she only had 1 perfect and I got 1 decision in there. So that was that 5-point difference. But that could have all went any sorts of way. Even Don, 9 correct, sitting in 5th spot there. Did fantastic. I think Christian and Vinny may have been cheating off of each other somewhere because they took the bottom spots there. So I don't know what y'all are doing over there, but you might want to rethink the way that things are going there because that didn't work out in your favor. Now, if you're wondering to yourself, how do I get talked about on this? You come over to Tapology, you create yourself a free account, and you join ImNoBookie, Group 965, whichever way you want to search it. We'll let you in. Let us know who you are. We'll talk about you. Tell you when you're doing good. Tell you when you're doing shitty. We'll give you a pat on the back. Or if you're like Vinny this week, you fucking stomped on your dick, rolled over it with steamroller, picked it back up, threw it over your shoulder, and then tripped over it. It's just one of those fucking days. It's gonna happen. We'll talk about you when that happens. Now, to coincide with this, we still have our end of year Grand Prix going on. So we're going to give a little update here on that real quick. Donna still holding down that top spot right now with 2295 in points there. Christian, even though he had a rough week, sitting in the second spot with 2040. Myself, I am just 105 points off of Christian, sitting in third. Vindog, even though he had a rough week this week, still sitting in the 4th spot with 1865. Meter pulling himself back together there is sitting solidly in the 5th spot. In the bottom spot right now is Don, sitting at 1435. Now, we have plenty of fucking weeks left. We got 7 weeks left, including this weekend. So anything could fucking happen. As far as this is concerned, it's anybody's game. Now, if you want to get in on that next Grand Prix that we have, you just got to hop in the group, let us know who you are, we'll get you an invite. But that is an exclusive club. we're able to talk about you, or if you were in that group and we know who you are. So if you're gonna pick like shit, know that you're gonna catch shit. If you're gonna pick great, you're gonna get patted on the back. And if you get fucking lucky, we're gonna tell you got fucking lucky. Now, all that being said here, let's hop into what I will say is a lackluster fucking card. Now, with all that being said, though, there are some interesting odds this week coming into this road to UFC grand finale is what I'll call it, because that's what it looks like. There is a lot of our general normal coin flips on there. However, we got a couple wider odds. Jose Ochoa and Kavanaugh. Wait a minute. I think I've got, yeah, no, that's right, weekend. Fucking a plus 280 for Jose. Linares coming in as a minus 350 favorite. Kind of a wide odds. Then another one of these ones that are a bit wider here. We've got the Ming. What the fuck is it? I'm gonna fucking martyr all of these
Ming
names.
Yang.
Yeah, I'm just gonna martyr them all. Don't know. This one is the Ming Shi and Zhao Kan Fang.
Mahashate?
Yeah. Like I said, I'm martyring all of these fucking names. See if I can even. No. Oh, there we are. It's the female strawweight fight. That's the one we're talking about here. Like I said, martyring fucking names, so I have to look these up as I go. Ming Shi sitting at is a plus 380 underdog, and Xiao Kan Fang a minus 500 favorite. So there's some wide ones for being people that are just on the road to the UFC. Then you've got the Ming Yang Zhang and Ozzy Diaz. Because that Zhang coming in as a minus 275 favorite over Diaz in a plus 210. I didn't want to talk about this fight, but it's kind of wider odds, so we're gonna touch on it briefly, which was Carlos Ulberg and Volkan Ozdemir. Carlos Ulberg sitting in the number 10 spot as far as that division is concerned, and Volkan Ozdemir sitting in the 8th spot. I want to make this very clear. They've got Carlos Ulberg coming in as a minus 300 favorite over a plus 240 in Volkan Ozdemir. So I'm thinking some of those odds makers are thinking Ozdemir is getting towards the end of his fucking rope. Now the widest odds on the card, to no one's surprise, Sean Wang or Kong Wang or however the fuck she wants to pronounce it. I'm gonna martyr that shit. And Gabriela Fernandez. We got Wang coming in as a minus 1,000 favorite over a plus 625 in Fernandez. It's not surprising the way she blew onto the fucking scene here in the UFC that she's got that wide of odds. She's like the Bo Nickel of the females division right now. So that makes sense. Now, the last two to talk about here are just going to be the co-main and main, because they said everything else is kind of coin flips across the board. And even the co-main is a coin flip, which I really don't see being a coin flip. But hey, Vegas odds are Vegas odds. Got Yan Jonan and Tabitha Ricci. They got Yan Jonan sitting as a minus 190 favorite over a plus 160 in Tabitha Ricci. To be honest, I think those odds should be a little bit wider than what they are, but it is what it is. Apparently, people don't want to bet on that fight as much. Otherwise, those fucking odds would probably be a lot wider than what they are. Now, coming into the lackluster main event, in Davidson, Figueiredo, and Peter Yan. They've got Yan coming in as a minus 300 favorite over a plus 250 underdog in Figueiredo. I can see it, but I can also see that just being a fucking coin flip fight. Because at this point in both of their careers, neither one of them have shown that they actually really want the title. So, again, I say the title again. They've both been title holders. So, but right now where they're at, they both have been lackluster at best in comparison to their best. Now, just for clarity purposes, I want to make sure, again, I reiterate this as per usual. I'm looking at the Bet MGM odds. The BetMGM odds may differ from what you're seeing or where you're placing bets if you're betting. So know that those odds are loose, but they're strict for BetMGM. If you go to fucking FanDuel or DraftKings or something else, their odds are probably going to vary. They may vary a little wider, they may vary a little narrower, depending on who their bookies are that are setting the odds. But that's what I got for this week. It's a lackluster week and a lackluster card, and well, it's a good thing it's not on primetime television because we're not fucking wasting great airtime slots with garbage.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. The one good thing, excuse me, the one good thing that I will say about these fights being on ridiculously early in the morning is that this is my normal hours. So if you, like most people, don't want to stay up ridiculously late to see these UFC fights going on, you can wait, and then casually tomorrow afternoon when you get a chance, just hop over to the ImNoJoe YouTube channel, youtube.com/@ImNoJoe, and click over on the shorts tab, because any decent finish that is worth talking about, I will have some sort of a reaction video with at least a shot, if not the actual play out of that finish. So you don't have to stay up and slog through all the bullshit that's going to be the UFC Macau card. I'll do it for you. That being said, because once again, I forgot to do it at the beginning of the goddamn show, we're going to do it here at the end before we get the fuck out of here. A little thing that I like to call the combat sports menu for the weekend. Because while, yes, we are here unexpectedly, even though last week I said we would be off this week because I'm bad at math sometimes, we do run the show along the UFC schedule. That is not because we are pro UFC, we are UFC shills or anything of that nature. It's just that pretty much every other major organization runs their schedules around the UFC's calendars as well. So that being said, there is plenty more than just the UFC for you to get into this weekend if you need a little punchy kicky for your Friday and Saturday, what's left of it here. So obviously, first and foremost, kicking off in 3.5 hours here at 3 a.m. Eastern, 2 a.m. Central Standard Time, Saturday morning, technically speaking, UFC Macau, Yan versus Figueiredo. We went into all the goodies about that card. If that is not your cup of tea, I understand most folks aren't vampires like myself. Kicking off tomorrow afternoon at a more reasonable time around lunchtime, 12:30 p.m. Eastern, 11:30 a.m. Central Standard Time, is Cage Warriors 181, live from Newcastle, England. This is, of course, one of those UFC feeder organizations. Generally, guys get the championship or get the top level here and get pulled to the UFC, and vice versa. When guys get cut from the UFC, usually for losing, they go back to organizations like this to kind of try and get their footing again. The casuals aren't going to know a whole lot of names on this. The hardcores will recognize a couple here, but it's fun fights with brunch if you need something to look forward to tomorrow. Kicking off a little bit later than that, 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Central Standard Time, is Brave Combat Fighting number 90. This is another one of those European organizations, feeder organizations, if you will. Casuals aren't probably going to know very many. Hardcores will know one or two people on the card, but it's fun fights to watch with your brunch on a Saturday afternoon. What else do you need? That being said, the final card going down tomorrow afternoon, worth mentioning in my opinion here, kicks off at 3:30 p.m. Eastern, 2:30 p.m. Central Standard Time tomorrow afternoon. Aries FC number 27. Combat sports is officially legal in France, and they've got an organization called Aries FC that's doing the damn thing. They have got a couple of fighters on this card that the hardcores will recognize. Casuals probably aren't going to know anybody, but it's combat sports with your afternoon. I mean, what more can you really ask for? That being said, that's what we've got for this particular episode. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen, who tuned in. If you are new to the show, we appreciate your time. We generally do this show pretty much every Thursday. There are combat sports to talk about that weekend, 9:30-ish Central Standard Time, youtube.com/@ImNoJoe. The replays do stay live, but if you aren't able to or don't want to catch them, I understand. We own mirrors as well. Fret not. The week after we go live, the all audio version of the podcast drops over on anchor.fm/ImNoJoe. You could pick that up to your podcast consumption platform of choice. Google, Spotify, Apple, everywhere is all available to there. And that is all free. If you like what we get up to around here, please make sure you give us a like, give us a subscribe, turn your notifications on so you don't miss an episode wherever you are. We really genuinely do appreciate it. On the other side of that coin, though, if you don't like what we get up to around here, first and foremost, what the fuck are you still doing this deep into a podcast you didn't enjoy? Give it a thumbs down and then go fuck yourself. We won't even dispute it. That being said, when we wrap things up around here, that is not the end of the fun, because today, like most Fridays, this gentleman, no, he's over here now. This gentleman over there and his other half dropped their podcast, the Slow Bake and Contemplate podcast, over there on Spreaker.com. Links to their podcast as well as their social media and their channel over on the I'm No Joe Discord server, all down in the description below, no matter where you were picking this up. So go tell those guys how awesome they are.
Appreciate you, brother. The fun never fucking stops either. Now that he's back, been getting back to the regular swing of things every Wednesday night around 9:30. You got to tune into the Brother Golf T Vapes YouTube channel. Foggy Fairway. If you're into the vapes, if you like vaping any way, shape, or form, you want to learn some new recipes or mixes, you just want to have some fucking fun, tune in every Wednesday night. Give the brother some love. Check everything out that he does. Everything should be down in the description as well.
Hey, sir. One caveat to that: there will not be a show this Wednesday because I'm doing Thanksgiving with the fam, and then I'm watching a Packer game. So that's gonna be a big skip this week. We'll be back the following week, though. Now, for those of you who aren't aware or didn't realize that we're going to be off for the next 2 weeks because there's no cards until fucking December. The meter does many things. In fact, he does a lot of many things. So if you go down below and click on the links, Linktree/ImNoJoe, Linktree/ the meter does many things. It'll take you to all of the many things that the meter does do and fill those time gaps where you're not going to see us for the next couple weeks. Go check it out. It's a good time.
Thanks, sir. Much appreciated. As everybody mentioned, links for everything is all down below in the description, no matter if you're picking this up an audio version or if you're here on YouTube. Links are all everywhere. I make sure so everybody can get some love. So go show everybody some love. Tell everybody how awesome they are. May or may not be some things in the works to drop on the channel while we're gone for the next couple weeks with no fights to talk about. But we are officially actually 100% certain off next week. If you are watching this on YouTube, if you're catching this on audio, you're probably really confused why the fucking audio dropped a week early, but you'll get it once you get to this point in the show anyway. So that being said, keep your eyes peeled on the channel, and if you're looking for your final results for any good fight that happens, you can always hop to the I'm No Joe YouTube channel shorts section. If there's a final worth talking about, a finish worth talking about, I'll throw something out there for you. So that being said, that is all we've got for this particular episode. So thank you again to everybody tuned in. We appreciate you all. Till next time, boys and girls, don't let ignorance stop you. You can root for anything.
Everybody was kung fu fighting. Those kicks were fast as lightning. In fact, it was a little bit frightening.
How do I say goodbye to what we had? The good times that made